that. So, that being said, I've rendered my opinion, and Laura, you've rendered yours. So I'd like to hear from Zosha and Annette and a few other people and anybody else that's on this line, but let's take it in order. So let's, Annette, what are your comments?
I think we could use a bookmobile no matter what. I don't think a bookmobile, though, can take the place of a permanent or stationary location. I understand this was before I moved to Warren. I understand that at one time there was a permanent library called Guest in that area that was
Guest was on Hoover and Topher. I remember.
I'm not sure where it was, but anyways, I definitely think that the citizens in this area definitely need something that's there. That, the only trouble with a bookmobile is it's going to be there a certain day, certain times, and if they can't make it that day, then they're out of luck. So that isn't the same kind of access that you can get from a stationary library building. So the only thing with the pop-up, though, I would be concerned about vandalism. I don't know if you're aware, but the Novi Library has a kiosk, which is almost the same idea as a pop-up, only I've seen pictures of it. It looks like it's more secure. It almost looks like a vending machine that you slide your library card in and you press buttons. And if you want, like a certain book or a DVD or whatever, you type in the corresponding number. Now, I don't know how much something like that would cost. That's just something that I decided to throw out there. The other thing is, if we could work it out somehow with that annex, I think that would be the ideal situation because it would always be there. Obviously, there would be a library staff member, or I don't know how many that you would be able to have their Axana. But to me, that would be the ultimate. And like I said, I'm all for a bookmobile, but not to take the place of a stationary library. So that's how I feel about it. But again, it all depends on the numbers. I don't
want to. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's all I wanted to say. Can we afford any of this? Obviously, with the bookmobile, we're talking about a possible grant. Like I said, I think we should have a bookmobile no matter what. It could go to the senior apartment buildings we have. It could go to nursing homes. I mean, obviously, because it's on wheels, it can go all over the city. But I just don't think that could take the place of a permanent library location for this part of Warren.
Okay. Zosha? Hello?
Zosha, you can unmute yourself.
Unmute. I'd like to pass. I'm just listening because this is a little new to me. So, but I'd like to pass right now.
Richard? Mr. Palmer, are you there?
He's muted too.
You have to unmute.
Mr. Palmer, lower left. Move your arrow all the way down to the left and click on the microphone. The picture of the microphone. Let's see, what is he?
All right. I heard him speaking before. Are you there? All right, let's move on then. Anybody else in the queue?
Mr. Chair, could we, just because they've been so involved with the David area, if we could have a couple, like, I know some of our council members are on the line. Can we hear from Councilwoman Moore? And
Absolutely.
thank you.
Let's take them in some sort of order. But yes, Councilman Moore.
Thank you very much. If those of you not familiar with the David area, the citizens in that area are active and very vocal and really want to build a community in that area. And they have been talking about doing something in partnership with the school district and Parks and Recreation and all kinds of things for years. And they have just been totally ignored. And it was only now that we made it public that we're really getting a little attention. So I think really, you people know better because you deal with these things all the time in the library. But I know that the residents would like to have something in their backyard that they can go to with their children and their families and not just show up when a mobile unit is going to be there, but to go in the park and have reading time and story time and bring their children, and it becomes a community event. And I think that's what the people there are really looking for. And I think some of the people are online, and you may want to ask them to speak. Is probably more important than me being on council, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Do I have another council member?
Yeah, Gary Watts.
Fine, Mr. Watts, could you like to speak?
The David area is also partial mine because I served down to 8 Mile. What these residents have brought forward is pretty awesome. I don't think it'll cost a lot of money to do and facilitate like they want to do. And I'm absolutely in support of it. Being a lifelong resident of Warren, I'm aware of what we had for libraries, and we took away their library at 9 Mile or at Stevens and Groesbeck. It was on Stevens, east of Groesbeck. We also took away, the city also took away the library that was at Shaner and Common Road. There is currently no library.
That was yes.
East of Van Dyke. And, you built I don't know who's responsible for it because it's before my time on council, but Civic Center South built a brand new library to replace a perfectly good library. I think it's time we pay some attention to these people on the east side of Van Dyke, specifically the south end. There's no programs down there for these young kids at all. And these people are pushing hard. They want something done down there, and I'll support whatever it is. I have no problem with the other idea, obviously, a bookmobile or building another library. I don't have a problem with any of that. But I think, in the short term, we need to get this other program going to help them out down there, make them happy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Anybody else? Anybody else in council?
Mr. Palmer can,
Yes.
can speak now.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
I agree with primarily with the Annette mentioned earlier. And it'd be great to have our library services expanded, provided we can find the proper funding for that. I think we all would like to reopen that closed library.
Well, I'm not sure we can reopen that closed library since they're
Well,
not.
or something down there.
We would have to find some sort of an alternative, but we can discuss that after we've heard all of the comments and suggestions as to how we might do this. Obviously, this is not going to happen tomorrow.
No.
It's going to take some consideration.
I think we all agree we'd like to service that area better.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's our intention. That's the intention of the meeting.
Right.
The intention of the meeting is exactly that. and we sure with all our hearts wants to fulfill or wants to deal with those needs. Now, do I have anything else, Mr. Palmer?
No, that's all.
May I
Okay,
say-
anybody else?
May I say something? Oh, I see a guest wants to speak. That's your phone. May I interject this thought?
Sure.
Our classrooms in the McKinley School, would the neighborhood consider having a collection in a classroom that we could visit on a daily basis, depending on the principal or the superintendent, if that would be a feasible aspect of an annex in
Well,
school?
that certainly sounds like a more permanent situation than a bookmobile at this point in time. But again, that's something that I like any and all options that will get the job done. So we need to consider all of those.
I think
I'm all
that's
for
food
that.
for thought.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else out there? Do I have
Yes, Frank,
citizens?
I wanted to
Hello?
mention, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to mention what Oksana just said about a library within a school. There is, like where I am also up north, when I go up during the summer, that's what they have. They have the regular library, and then the staff from that library does go to the school, because there's become a very lack of school librarians. And so
Mhm.
any help that they can get, that's how they function up there. So it's getting to be actually common that part of the school, a room is set aside for a library. So it's a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, with all of those things, there's going to be have to be a lot of thought given to the process, number one, and number two, cooperation. In this case, it would have to be between the school district. We'd have to get the cooperation of council. There's a number of things that have to be coordinated in order for that to happen. And just running that through my head as we were speaking. Do I think it's impossible? No, I think I think from what I'm hearing that there's many people on board. So I don't think we would have a great deal of resistance, but going forward, we'll have to do that. Any other citizens out there that want to voice their opinions Yes, hello.
My name is Elaine Edwards, and I'm from the
Good
David area.
afternoon, Elaine. Okay,
Pardon me, can I speak?
sure.
Hello?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm not getting really good reception, so we really would like something, anything. Okay, we used to have so many services in this area with our library, with Parks and Rec, and we have nothing for our children or our seniors here. And so that's why it came up with this idea with the little book bin, whatever. And, we want something. We've had this group together for like 10 years, and we've tried so hard going, our council people, the superintendent, we had her to our meeting, and we've just gotten nowhere, and we're so discouraged.
Frustrated. Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. I can certainly appreciate that. So we're listening. I'm listening, and the Library Commission is listening. We can't help you very much with the Parks and Recs, and I can't help you with some of these other things, but we can certainly listen, and we are listening to your concerns with the library.
Okay,
Hello?
like with
Yes?
McKinley, we passed all of the millages here to build that big school. And they won't speak to us. And I volunteered up there for 40 years. I mean, this is discouraging. I mean, because even with the school, I know that, you know, with the way things are these days, that the school is pretty much locked down. But if they had a room near one of the doors and they could put those, you know, gates up to keep people from going into the building with the children, you know, I mean, there's a way to do it.
It sounds like a reasonable solution, but I agree with you. It sounds like a reasonable solution. Again, I think you'll find that the Library Commission is for anything that makes sense and can be accommodated. What we can't guarantee is cooperation from the rest of these folks. But we will work we'll work our hardest to make sure to try to get that cooperation. So, but I do.
Even the bookmobile. We would love to have a bookmobile up at the park. You know, I mean,
I'm all for that. Let's, would you in your group sit down and put your thoughts together on paper?
Definitely.
And send it to me, or send it to me, or send it to the commission, so that we can sit down and because it sounds like from the commission and from the council and from what I'm hearing from you that we are pretty much on the same page in terms of providing library services to the area. What we need is
I mean, we're regular people, so we don't have, you know, I mean, one of our members came up with the book box thing, and I thought that was great. I mean, I know all the things of vandalism, but we'd love to give something a try.
Excuse me.
Yeah, well, the idea of a book kiosk, whatever form it takes, is certainly a step in the direction of providing resources. But it's minimal as far as I can see. I mean, to me, it doesn't satisfy what I was thinking in terms of providing resources. The bookmobile idea would be more in line with what I was thinking of providing services, because they would have greater functionality, more books, people to man it, and would be we'd have to arrange for the access and how we would do that. But the idea of having an annex in a school, like a room,
Chair,
sounds even more appealing if we can make that work.
Mr. Chair.
Say again.
Mr. Chair, are we skipping the rest of the agenda? Because I guess it's kind of my job to keep this in terms of the agenda and Robert's Rules of Order and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, open meetings. And there's an ongoing conversation right now, and I thought we were moving to audience participation. So really, it's not supposed to be a one-on-one at this point.
No, I agree. I think
there might be some other people who want to participate from the audience, and each person gets a limited amount of time to participate, and then the board can respond when it's their turn to talk.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just want to throw out there real quick. If we do the bookmobile, I think residents would also want to see additional programming. So for an example, okay, the Warren Library is going to bring the bookmobile at 2 p.m. on a Saturday and then do a story and craft while they're there at the park. So I think it's not just they're looking for the books, they would love to be a part of the programming as well. And I know for me, like my son grew up at the library, and he was literally obsessed with the story times and the craft times. I mean, everyone that just does such an amazing job makes the books come alive. And that was a lot of the feedback as well, of not just having access to the books, but having access to, some kind of programming, nothing, out of the realm of, craziness, but something simple like a story and a craft, hey, here's when the bookmobile is going to be here and then we're going to do a craft and story time. I mean, that would be great. Something along that realm. So it feels more of, even though it's kind of a moving library, that there's still some kind of programming there for the residents and their families. Sorry, I just want to throw that in there real quick.
May I
Oh,
say
okay.
that goes hand in hand, Ms. Barnwell, story time programs and the bookmobile, it's just a part of what we do or would do when we get a bookmobile, if it happens.
Okay. All right, any other speakers, comments?
We have a resident, the one that I turned over her letter to you, Vera, her hand is raised, I see.
Hold on,
Go
let me
right
start
ahead.
my video. I am currently at Vacation Bible School, so it may be really loud, but I wanted to take a few minutes to just talk to you a little bit about this whole ideal. And I love all the ideals that are presented. We really do need a actual library in our area. But what I really want to emphasize is that this area has been so neglected for so long that we can't wait for a library to be built or even an annex. It's going to take time for those things to happen. Whereas this library that we could put some type of kiosk or trailer or something in the park, it not only addresses the ideal that we would love to have something centered around that park so that families can come and do something in that park, but it's something that we can do right now so that these residents who have been so neglected and feel so left out of city activities have something in the area that they can have sooner rather than later. I loved all those ideals. I love the ideal of the mobile bus type library where we could have like the Wi-Fi and things in the area, but that's only going to be like every so often. We're going to have specific days for that. Whereas as residents, we have the right to have some type of library that's a little bit more stationary. So that's really what I wanted to emphasize is everybody in these meetings has been overwhelmingly saying that we need something now rather than later. And we would really love to have it be something that's in our area that brings people into the park and together and communicating. So it creates that community atmosphere that we've not had for quite some time. So that's all I really wanted to share with you. Everything else I've said is already in my letter, and I'm sure that you've all read that by now. So thank you very much for your consideration. And I'm looking forward to working with whoever wants to work with us on whatever we end up with in our area. It's just so vital that something gets done sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chairman
Yes.
Pasternak, there's someone else who would like to express their thoughts.
Feel free. Go ahead.
Gary E. Jury, a 55-year resident of the city of Warren. Are you able to hear me at this time?
Yes.
Yes.
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, as a 55-year resident of the city of Warren, I'd like to share some of my thoughts, specifically on some of the substance of a recent article in the Macomb Daily, as well as comments made during the last city council meeting by Secretary Mindy Moore. I thought it was interesting to note that Ms. Barnwell had not spoken with the Friends of the Library president or our Warren Library director about any of these plans. And it was stated that it would have been good to talk to people first instead of putting these things out there as a possibility without even letting those in the loop know. They stated that Barnwell is not a Friends of the Library member and even questioned her knowledge about what Friends actually does, as well as the authenticity of her enthusiasm for libraries, considering her support for last year's library millage cut. And it was also mentioned that no one from the city council, except for a few that have long since retired, ever came to the bookstore to see what they were doing, said the Friends of the Library president. And now, as Ms. Barnwell has stated, the concerns of those in the David area are very important. And no, Mindy, you have not attended many David area meetings as you claim. They certainly have been ignored over there, and they've been ignored by you and others. It's time you started being a little bit more honest with the residents in our community. Now, there are many more risks than benefits that I see in securing a pop-up library as opposed to a mobile library, for many of the reasons that the mayor mentioned. It's still a consolation, in my opinion. Now, a permanent structure is what should be under serious consideration. But as a complement to a permanent structure, this whole concept of a mobile library would be a welcomed addition, I think, to many in that area, I feel. And basically, that's all. I just wanted to share that with you. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr.
Can I have the
Mr.
name of the
Chair.
group?
Mr. Chair,
Go
if I
ahead.
could, just very quickly here. This meeting that we had was a meeting I was invited to by the residents. And, you know, they wanted to be the ones to introduce this idea. And myself, Councilman Moore, Councilman Watts, we were invited to this meeting to help the residents bring this idea to the board, as we are doing right now. And ideas like this shouldn't be Lori Barnwell's idea or, you know, whatever politician. It's for the residents. It's their ideas. And that's why I was letting the residents take the lead, and they wanted to be the ones to really introduce it to the board, which with their letters and signatures attached, that is exactly what happened. So thank you.
All right, no comment. And as far as I'm concerned, let's take all the nonsense out of it. I'm happy to hear about this. I think it's a great idea. Mike, what I don't have at this point in time is the name of the group, and I know, Lori, you had invited me to that meeting, and I was unable to attend. But I think we also need to set up another meeting and perhaps have the residents attend one of our, or have a meeting down at Burnett or Bush and have the residents participate there also. I think that would be a good way for us to not only see it face to face, but also to exchange some other ideas. I mean, everything I've heard today right now, and again, this is my personal opinion, has sounded pretty daggone nice. I mean, I like those ideas. How do we bring them to fruition? That's going to take some additional discussion. Also going to take the, a lot of cooperation, as I said, between the school districts, the Parks and Recreations, the council. So it's going to take some work to do. Again, my personal opinion. Anybody else from the residents and the group that want to express their thoughts?
Mr. Lafferty?
Good evening, members of the Warren Library Commission. This is Councilman Jonathan Lafferty. And I wanted to address one item that I thought was very important that the mayor brought up earlier in the conversation. And I wanted to bring some clarity to the reality of the situation. And the council did indeed reduce the amount of money being collected through the millage, but that was intended to ensure that no one department is collecting monies that it will not spend through the current fiscal year. And I'm sure, as Mrs. Urban would announce with confidence, is that you are not running a deficit in the library as of right now. And at any time, if an appropriation is needed the mayor and the library director can come to council, and we would be more than happy to consider and approve an appropriation if and when it was needed, should the millage not be providing the amount of money that you need. And if we see that the mayor and the director bring us a proposal to in their next budget year, as they did not for this current year, they chose to maintain the same millage rate. The council will consider that during their next budget hearing. I just wanted to bring a little clarity that the council did not defund the libraries. That is an incorrect categorization of the actions of council. We are being fiscally responsible to ensure that the library and no other department is collecting more money than it will expend during the fiscal year. So I want to be very clear about that. I love the idea of bringing additional library services to the entire city. I think a bookmobile mobilizing the library is a great idea, not only in the southern end, but throughout the city. Bringing it to different functions and festivals, having the Warren Library on Wheels is an incredible idea. And certainly the southern end of the city has been disenfranchised when its library was closed and a library was moved north, supposedly in place of it. I think that this administration should move very quickly on deciding where a brand new library to serve the southern section of the city should be built. And in the meantime, we should do everything we can to support additional and ancillary library services to those affected areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Any other comments from the commission?
Can I, this is Annette, can I ask Oksana a question?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the kiosk that the Novi Library has? And if you are, do you know how much something like that costs? I'm sure it's expensive, but do you have any idea how much something like that would cost?
I do not. However, we can investigate that. And actually, I'll just call the director at the Novi Library and have a conversation with her regarding that.
Right. I mean, I would imagine that would be quite a bit cheaper than the bookmobile. And I understand that the citizens in that area, they want something now. They don't want to have to wait, you know, months or another year or two before they get something. They want something fairly quick. And even though I'm not really in favor of a pop-up, if that's the best we can do quickly, then I would be all for that.
I did jot that down for myself to give Novi a call and
Okay.
see the manufacturer, the vendor of the particular kiosk that they have. And if there are other vendors, we'd see what amount we could spend on more than one, perhaps.
Right. From what I could see, it was a friend of mine sent it to me. And you not only can check out books from this kiosk, but you can return books. So it looks like it would be something very ideal until maybe we could get something a little more permanent for that area. And again, I'm all in favor of a bookmobile no matter what. So anyways, that's just my thought.
Thank you. Frank? Did we lose Mr. Pasternak?
Uh-oh.
I think we did.
Let's see what happened here.
I don't see him on there.
I think he's disconnected somehow.
Somehow.
Yes, he is disconnected. Well, wait a minute, here he is. He's back.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah.
right.
Hiding on us.
For whatever reason, the call ended and I had to dial back in. I'm not sure what happened, but any rate, any other conversations going forward? In that case, let's call the meeting to an end. Anybody, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Frank, we have Sunday hours to discuss yet.
Okay, then let's discuss the
Labor
Sunday
Day.
hours. I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I'm at a disadvantage here. I was looking for an
Okay.
agenda, but
The discussion and action item is the continuation of Sunday hours after Labor Day.
okay.
Your thoughts?
My thoughts?
Let me give you some background. Pandemic has impacted our circulation. Also, the number of people that actually enter the library. I think they're still hesitant to do so. They're trying to avoid crowds and they're distancing from each other. Hopefully, the pandemic is still raging, resurfacing. This will also affect attendance. So I think that Sunday hours, continuation of Sunday hours should not start right after Labor Day, but we should wait until the time it allows, the pandemic allows us to return to Sunday hours so that the patrons who used to visit the library on Sundays would be able to enjoy that service again. But
Okay.
attendance is low.
Comments from the commission?
I would agree with Ms. Urban and her assessment. If that's what her and her staff feel is the best move and what the residents, they're not coming in, then I would make a motion to continue to abstain from Sunday hours until Director Urban thinks that the residents desire them again after the pandemic.
Okay.
I agree with
All
that.
right. Hello?
Yeah, this is Annette. I agree with that.
Are Sunday
Okay,
hours
Annette?
strictly at Civic Center?
Pardon, say that again.
Are
Repeat.
Sunday hours only at the Civic Center?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Zasha?
I would agree to postpone it at this time.
Okay, Richard?
I agree with that also.
Is there a
Okay,
second
so
to
there's
the motion?
Say again?
Did somebody second Lori's motion?
No, nobody seconded. I was looking for comments from the other
Oh, I'm
commissions.
sorry. My mistake.
But
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Somebody can second it.
I'll second. This
All in
is Annette.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
The next item is a letter, writing a letter to council regarding reinstating of millage rate approved by the citizens in 2010. The reason being, let me give you some background. The staff, we have, wait a minute.
Hello?
We have staff members. The library has a couple of staff members who have been busy writing proposals for a grant. And we wrote a $250,000 grant for a bookmobile. And in order to operate, to have this be a sustainable project, we need to up the millage to a rate where we can hire a few additional staff members. One would be a driver, a branch librarian, and a library technician. And of course, this $250,000 would provide us with a collection. The bookmobile would be outfitted with carts where we can display books, and we would have a 50-inch TV on the outside. We would have an area for a fax machine, laptops, the works. We really worked hard on we worked hard to create an area for patrons to walk into or pull the carts out for them, and for them to enjoy browsing through the collection and checking out materials other than books. It includes.
Well, let's say that you say you have a letter that you have composed to go to the
It's a
council.
grant. We are interested in having a letter written, composed. Yes, I would ask Laura Sullivan to work with us regarding that, so that we can present this to council and maybe have a committee of the whole listen to our thoughts regarding not only the bookmobile, but other projects that are pending or have been put on the back burner because the cost factor is such that wouldn't allow us to proceed. We have several projects that need to be completed besides the bookmobile, and it's replacing fluorescent lights with LED lights, not only at the Civic Center for the stack lighting, but also at the Miller branch, which is totally fluorescent. And we have the stacks at the Civic Center that we need to replace with LED lighting that has a driver. So we would have to remove the burned out ballasts.
What you're saying is there's a number of items that
there
need
are
to
a
be
number
addressed.
of projects, and that would include, staffing for the bookmobile. I have my and the staff who's been working on this proposal for the grant. I have spent a lot of time and effort in putting it together so that we would be competitive, because there are many libraries who are also out there who want to obtain a bookmobile for their city as well. So hopefully we are successful, and it would be great to have $250,000 that we could get from millage and buy a bookmobile and outfit it in the manner that would make everybody happy in the different quadrants of the city.
Mr. Chair, I'm kind of wondering here, because the millage rates in the budget have already been approved, and everything's already being collected. So I don't know, I guess would ask Ms. Sullivan what her thoughts would be on this. I don't know how that would be done. If something is voted on, like for instance, if the road millage passes this evening, that will be on the winter tax bill this year. But with increasing the library millage, I don't know how that would work for this year, because the rates have already been set by the administration and council. And also, would going to council for an appropriation of funds for some of these projects might make more sense. Through the chair to Ms. Sullivan, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Lori. I'm not really sure what the answer to that question is, because I'm not as familiar with the budget processing as you may be, being the treasurer, or as maybe Mr. Lafferty or any of the other council members that actually approved the budget this year would be. But I'd be
Yeah.
happy to look into that.
Yeah, maybe Ms. Moore, through the chair, if I could have Ms. Moore maybe speak on this.
Yes, so, so the budget presented by the mayor included a reduction in the millage, the library millage, as it was presented to us. And during the budget hearings, no one mentioned that there was an interest in increasing the millage for this year. Of course, we would consider that, but it wasn't presented to us through the mayor's office this year as a budget proposal and a tax rate proposal. It was presented at the lowered rate.
Ms.
So we would,
Moore,
yes,
through the chair, is it possible to amend that?
I'm
That you're aware of the need?
I'm not aware of it being able to be amended because we've already sent in the tax rate for the year. I'm not sure you can do it midstream. We'd have to get a legal opinion on that. But, you know, the time to do this would be at the budget hearing, and this was not brought up at all during our budget hearing. So we accepted the mayor's proposed tax rate this year.
So just to clarify, Councilman Moore, what you're saying is the mayor in his proposed budget was the lower library rate. Just want to clarify.
Correct. Council in the 2021 budget reduced the millage rate.
Yeah.
And then in the mayor's proposed budget for 21-22, the mayor proposed that reduced millage rate. And
So that was a continuation of the first millage cut going back to 2020. Is that it?
correct. And there was no request to raise that at the time. But, you know, certainly at the next budget hearings and the next budget year, we can certainly revisit that.
But so then you would, I mean, to help out this end of the city, you would consider going about doing it through appropriations, even though.
You can't change the tax rate through an appropriation, I don't believe.
No, but the library can get funds through appropriation, can it not?
Yeah, we can appropriate funds from the general fund. During.
Right, okay. So
For sure.
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure if we're going to do something, that we do it and it be effective and that we're able to legally do it. I just don't know. Because all those tax forms.
I'd like to be able to afford to do it. So.
Right. Yeah. All those tax forms go to the county, to the state, you know, and they're required for us to sign off on that. You know, the mayor proposes, council approves, and then I send out the taxes with the approved tax rates that I am given by council.
I thank you both for that explanation.
Oksana, I have another question. I assume that $250,000 in grant money, hopefully that we could get for the bookmobile. I'm assuming that that's for a new bookmobile, not a used one?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a new one.
Okay.
And let's not put a number on $250,000 because, as you probably are aware, that number can't be fixed in stone. It's going to be a moving target depending on what gets included in there, how it's built. I mean, there's lots of room for movement in that price. I think that needs to be examined, and nothing's obvious as far as I'm concerned, but it needs to be considered, and we need to put it out for bid and get some feedback on who makes the best one and its utilitarian use. So a number of things to consider there, but looking at the millage, again, I think that's a done deal for this year or until the next budget hearing. So I think appropriation from the general fund might be the other option, but we also need to know what we're going to approach council on when it comes to appropriating funds. So we have to put our collective heads together and come up with some idea of what the cost of this is going to be. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mr. Chair. And it seems like on this call, we have, several council members who, want to talk, want to have the dialogue, and are very passionate, as we all are, about making sure residents have all the services that they need. So I think the mayor was on, first thing on this call. We have council on, we're all on, residents are on. I think everybody is really wants to do what we can to move forward on this, which is great. And I think the funding, could come from a grant, could come from some of our other federal state partners, or if needed, perhaps if council approves, a budget appropriation from the general fund.
Lori, at this point, I don't care where it comes from. As long as we can get it together, then it happens. That's the concern that I have. So we need to sit together as a commission and collect these ideas from the residents and then start moving forward as to how to best approach this. All right. Any other comments? Thank you for all your comments.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Angela Rogancy from Council. I just wanted to say that I'm just here to listen, but that I'm happy to support a pop-up library, whatever you all decide as a body. I'm happy to help support, as well as whatever the residents in that area feel that they need. So I'm just mostly listening, but just wanted to know that you all had my support.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear
Thank
that.
you.
Glad to hear that. All right. I think we've covered all the discussion and action items. We moved forward with the audience participation a little prematurely, but do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your participation, and the meeting has come to an end.
Thank you.
Thank you and good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Lori, is that your Wonder Woman?
Exactly. Rocking it
You
out.
are a Wonder Woman.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
goodbye.
See you guys.
Night.
All right.
Take care.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Oksana. Appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you.